my name is Nicola Wensley and I'm a partner for Page Executive. I'm very excited to be here today with Peter Batt, Divisional Managing Director at the Co-op Group, a nominee for the 2022 Retail Week Diversity Week Awards, which Page Group are proud to be sponsoring.
Well, thank you, Nicola, and thanks for having me on. Really proud to be selected representing all our colleagues in the Co-op, and we've done a number of things over the last 12 to 18 months during the pandemic. I led the £1 Million Mile, which was a piece of work with Mind, where across my division of 44 areas, we ran, walked in wheelchairs, walking sticks in an inclusive way, and we Bhangra danced. We had International Reggae Day, so each of the 44 areas in a different way, whether it was cultural or for a disability, race, gender, sexuality, we enabled it to be an inclusive environment, and we raised over £1 million for that, 1,083,000. Really proud of that. In addition to that, I reverse mentor a number of colleagues. I reverse mentor a transgender colleague who is now very visible in both the Co-op and to external networks, and I found that really useful, that I've supported from a business perspective, and they've helped me understand what it's like to be transgender, what it's like to be non-binary, and I've really learned through that. I also reverse mentor two other colleagues. One's a young black man in the Southwest, again, to understand what it's like to be different and how I can support black leaders, which I'll go on to in later, how the Co-op can actually support people perhaps who don't see visible role models. So I'm learning what it's like to be a young black man in today's culture. And then I also reverse mentor a Muslim imam, again, to understand culturally what it's like to be in an arranged marriage. So I really endorse reverse mentoring. I then also support Retail Week, Women in Leadership, and I'm an ambassador for that. I think it's really important to support women. So we have, in my team of 9, I've got 3 women from different backgrounds from both a sexuality and age perspective. And then I'm also a lead sponsor of the Represent Network to do with disability. And again, I think that's probably the inclusion network that perhaps doesn't get as much visibility as perhaps race, gender, sexuality, etc. Also really keen to support Pride. We're going to have the first Pride float in London for the 50th anniversary for the Co-op. And there's probably a host of other things we do, but they'd be the key call-outs.
And why is it important for you to lead a truly diverse business?
I think where society's now changed, I think from an inclusion point of view, what I've understood through the reverse mentoring and working with some of the different groups we have is that people don't have visible role models, and from a commercial perspective it also enables us to understand what our future customers want. And from a colleague perspective, the more diverse thinking you have in the room, the more from a potential learning and growing your organisation, you learn from different aspects instead of shoehorning your customer and consumer base into just one sphere. I think the more we can do it and the more we can open up and learn from others, the better we'll be. And obviously there's the commercial benefit, but the number one is the moral benefit, that it means that people feel that they can do anything rather than shoehorn from a young school age into certain positions.
Great. And what steps have you taken to ensure that diversity is embedded into all areas of your business?
Well, we've started off with each of my team have an inclusion target that's reviewed every half year, and they must deliver on those targets like you would a profit and loss account. And they generate that inclusion target, and then they are managed on that, I guess, and they have to deliver on that by the end of the year. We now have a number of manifestos. We have an anti-racism manifesto, which again we are held to, and we have zero tolerance on any sort of non-inclusive behaviour. We also now have 5 different, as I talked about earlier, work streams. So we'd have RISE for our BAME colleagues. We have Represent for our disabled colleagues. We have Aspire for women in leadership. We have Strive for young colleagues between 16 and 30. And then we have Respect for our LGBTQ plus colleagues. But palpably, we also have allies in those as well. So it's not just for those colleagues, it's for others to learn, understand and see visibly that leaders and other colleagues are getting involved in those networks.
Great. And what results are you seeing from these steps, and what effect has it had in your business?
Well, the number one thing we're seeing is visible leaders at a higher level. So we're really now understanding that people can see, when I've done listening groups with colleagues, they've told me that that's the number one thing they would like to see, that gives them the art of the possible. So we are seeing leaders from different communities and some of the networks we've talked about at a higher level, we're also seeing things like podcasts come through from leaders across the business where they're demonstrating, for example, for Ramadan, myself and a number of leaders fasted for a day, found it extremely difficult. The last 2 hours, my team would say I was very grumpy. But what it's helped us learn is where people need to have breaks or how we can help support them in their leadership, or perhaps if they have an interview at the right time, not a time of day where perhaps they've been fasting. And I think from a product perspective now, we've also got colleagues who've been involved in producing meals. So I had a colleague from the Bangladesh area who said to me, Peter, I buy my products from other retailers. We managed to get in some time in the restaurant up in Angel Square, and he's now being part of a co-creation of some Bangladeshi dishes that we're going to now sell in our stores. So actually, his community are now going to shop with us, whereas before we didn't provide that. Now, we can't do that for everyone, but we're really learning to understand what our different communities want. And of course, the colleagues see that from a leadership level down.
That's great. Really, really amazing. Thank you, Peter, for sharing your insight. It's been really, really fascinating. We're looking forward to the Retail Week Awards and continuing to support diversity and inclusion with the rest of the industry.
Thanks, Nicola, and thanks for all your support.